men and women that were up there, because this was our life that we've been so entrusted with to prepare and take care of for all of our lives. Last evening, when we went to do our presentation before our community, we expressed to them what occurred, and we had our mothers and fathers crying because this was not going to be the same. We were not going to be able to go back to what we thought we would have if we had stopped.
We had an aspect plane that went out, took samples of the air. When they took samples of the air, we posted that on the website. It's on the New Mexico Environment website. Feel free to look at it. Every time we take an air sample and test it, we're going to put it on the website so that you can see what is being tested and what chemicals there are or aren't. At this time, there is nothing unusual about what is being received as far as the data. There are 36 stations for testing the air quality on the ground throughout the states, and this is something, these are units provided by the New Mexico Environment Department, so that there are checks and balances between the lab and what they're testing and what we're testing, and so that there's this consistency of information, but also checks and balances, so that it'll all be on the website so that you can see for yourselves what is happening
today. As we talk about the protection of watersheds and the aftermath of the fire, as the efforts right now are to put this fire out, but that's not where the work ends. It's to make sure that we're going to protect these watersheds, that we're going to go in and provide the restoration needed, and that's going to take resources and efforts. And it's going to take all of us
as the Congressman said, it's not just about putting this fire out, because we're here for the long haul, and the next stage is the recovery and the restoration. You know, there was a phenomenal job that was done up at Cerro Grande, and one of the lessons that did come out of that very tragic event, I think, is the fact that many of us learn to interact and work with one another in a stronger manner, because one thing we realized is it doesn't help if we just thin, as we say, on one side of the fence, because if you clean up your area but the land on the other side is still heavily forested and under, say, extreme conditions, it's going to burn in.
We can't be mad at anybody, we can't point fingers and say, oh, why didn't you do that, why didn't you do this? It was because we didn't have the cooperation from Mother Nature. Once we get those rains coming down, hopefully not too hard, because if we get hard rainstorms, again, we're going to see the effects of the sediment, the ash, all that debris coming down to our agricultural fields 25 miles down to Santa Clara. So again, those are all the things that we're looking at, is what they call the burned area emergency rehab. How do we then start preparing? It's going to take some time for our forests to come back as we do see it today. But unfortunately, you know, we all work together on this, and that's what we have to continue to do.
The reason we find this to be so important, we've had 1,023 fires in this state this year alone, this calendar year. I'm sorry, fiscal year, from July 1 to yesterday. We've had 1,023 reported fires. We have burnt 931,000 acres. So we have to be careful. We have to make sure that we are not allowing children to participate in having fireworks out in the street, even if you think you're within a neighborhood and it should be safe because you have asphalt and cement. You get one of those bottle rockets, it flies up on top of someone's rooftop that they have dry pine needles, and they didn't know they were there, and that fire is going to start. And if it starts within a neighborhood, then we've got some serious problems. What's going to happen is you're going to move resources from fighting this fire to go into neighborhoods, to take care of life, and make sure that we are protecting that. So please, we are urging, through an executive order that I issued, was do not buy, do not sell, do not use fireworks this year. It is extremely dangerous. As the governor, I cannot order it. I can simply urge you not to do it. I can order it only on wildland. Municipalities and counties can only restrict certain kinds of fireworks. Usually the kinds that propel, like bottle rockets, etc. But they cannot ban fireworks completely, which is part of the problem. And so we're going to issue state police. We're deploying them throughout the state of New Mexico, additional state police to enforce those restrictions of that type of fireworks that aren't allowed, and to enforce them within the neighborhood fire. We cannot have a neighborhood fire. We've had over 4,000 fires already. Our men and women on the front line have done an absolutely fabulous job. We have to make sure that we continue to protect them as well, and as they are then in turn protecting us. I got an email just today from a young man, 12 years old. He interviewed me for a story before, and months ago, and he said, "I get it. I'm not going to light fireworks. I'm going to encourage my friends not to do so." So if he gets it, we need to get it too. So please encourage your family and friends, save them for another year, or return them. One last thing: Walmart, Smith's, Albertsons, they've pulled them off the shelves. They are no longer selling fireworks. Many of the stands that you see throughout the state are shutting down as well. Also in cooperation, understanding what a severe situation we have in New Mexico.
The first words out of his mouth was, "I'm sorry. We could not hold the line at the fire." Now that's a human being. It takes guts for someone to say that. So Joe, thank you very much. This is the camaraderie that all of you have shared. Those of you that are from Los Alamos, this is probably the first time you've met your neighbor. This is the first time you probably shared stories. This is the first time you laughed together. This is the first time you ate together. I'm not too sure what food you're serving them, Dennis. I hope you've been feeding them good. But I hope that the friendships that occurred these last few days will be a friendship that will be a lifetime. And that you'll continue to visit each other as neighbors and as friends, as Los Almolenses, or whatever the proper wording is, in your area. And so, I share with you not a good story in that way, but I share with you a life that all of us are living presently. No one understood how fast this fire was going to go Sunday. I was preparing for baptism Sunday, and I went to church and got the baptism. Then we went to go to Pewaukee store to get some things. On my way back, we saw the fire, and it was starting to blow up at that point. But just in a matter of a few hours, it grew. And in a matter of 24 hours, it even grew more. In a matter of 48 hours, that small plume became what we didn't want it to be. And I know all of you were praying similar to us. We were also praying on our knees. We're asking the Creator in our cultural way to please forgive us what have we done, so that you could bring moisture, so that the fire, mother fire could be stopped.